We're often told that attraction is supposed to be loud, obvious. But what if the really powerful signs, the ones that prove you're actually on her mind, are the ones you can barely see? Today, we're going to dive into the quietest signals of a woman's interest. These are the signs her body gives away long before she ever says a word. And once you learn to spot them, you'll honestly never look at attraction the same way again. This right here, this gets to the absolute heart of it. Fantasy hides in restraint. See, most of us expect a huge flashy signal, a bold move, maybe a direct compliment. But the deepest kind of fantasy, the kind that really takes over someone's thoughts, well, that's built in the quiet moments. It's not about what's being said out loud. It's about what's being held back. She's creating a private world in her mind, and the clues are incredibly subtle. And this just lays out the disconnect perfectly. We're wired to look for the loud and obvious stuff, right? Something overtly sexual, or maybe even her chasing you directly. But the reality of it, psychologically, is a whole different ballgame. True fantasy is quiet, it's subtle, it's way more psychological than it is physical. And it's almost always defined by careful restraint, not by being super forward. It's an internal movie she's playing, and the signs are just these little moments where that movie leaks out into the real world. All right, so our first stop on this journey is her body's secret language. This is where the story really begins because her body is often having a conversation that her mouth just isn't ready for yet. It's all about those unconscious signals, the things she's telling you without even realizing she's doing it. So you might start to notice these tiny little things. The second you walk into a room, her posture changes. She might sit up a little straighter or do a quick, almost invisible touch to her hair. It's not for the room, it's for you. Or maybe she'll subtly mirror you. If you lean on your elbow a moment later, she does too. And then there's the classic accidental brush of her hand against yours that just lingers for a split second too long. These aren't random, believe me. There are signs of a hyper-awareness that is completely focused on you. So what is actually happening in her brain? Well, it's this fascinating thing called mental rehearsal. Her mind is subconsciously playing out little scenes with you, thinking about what she might say, imagining how you might react to a joke. And her body? Her body is physically responding to that internal fantasy. It's where this mental practice runs right into the emotional risk of the real world. So when she adjusts her posture, it's not just vanity. It's her body reacting as if a spotlight just hit her, an imaginary spotlight that her own mind put there. Okay, so let's move on from the physical cues and see how this whole thing builds. We're now shifting into the little details of conversation. And this isn't so much about the topics you talk about, but how she's listening and, more importantly, what she's choosing to share with you. This brings us to a really key idea: selective vulnerability. Now, this isn't her telling you her deepest, darkest secrets. It's actually the opposite. She'll offer these small, quiet truths. Thoughts she probably would normally just filter out. It could be a small frustration about her day, a random silly thought, or a tiny worry that she immediately just laughs off. Every single one of these is a small test. She's quietly checking to see if you're a safe person for her thoughts. She's testing the waters for emotional intimacy. And just as important as what she says is how she listens. See, when a woman is really truly thinking about you, she doesn't just listen so she can figure out her response. No, she listens to absorb. She's like a sponge, just taking in everything you say. This is exactly why she'll remember the tiniest details from a conversation that even you've forgotten about. Days later, she might bring up the name of your childhood dog you mentioned once. Why? Because her mind is replaying you when you're not around. And those little details are the anchors for her thoughts. So you see, it's a process, right? It's like a quiet little dance. Step 1, she shares one of those little truths. Step 2, she watches you. She's gauging your reaction. Are you paying attention? Do you brush it off? Or are you just calm? Then over time, she assesses your consistency. If you keep showing up as a calm, steady presence, the fantasy she has about you gets deeper. It becomes a safer, more welcoming place for her mind to go. But if you're not, it starts to fade. Your character in these moments is everything. All right, now we're going even deeper. This is where we talk about the signs that show you're not just some guy she interacts with anymore. You're someone who has actually taken up residence inside her head. These are the clues that you are on her mind, even when you are nowhere in sight. There's this powerful idea called cognitive anchoring. Basically, you'll start to notice she finds these little ways to bring you back into her mental space. She might send you a random text about a song you talked about last week, or ask you a simple question that doesn't really need an answer. This isn't just her being bored or making small talk. Her mind is actively pulling you back into her immediate awareness because, in a way, you never fully left in the first place. Pay really close attention to her emotional state when she's around you. Now, this might sound a little contradictory, but stick with me. Both her being unusually calm and unusually flustered can point to the exact same thing. If she's calmer with you than with anyone else, it might be because your presence is grounding to her. It actually regulates her nervous system. But if she seems a little more nervous or easily flustered, maybe laughing a bit too much at your jokes, that's a sign of heightened self-awareness. Either way, it means you occupy a really important space in her internal world. She cares what you think. And then there's jealousy, but not the big, dramatic, movie-style jealousy. This is a quiet shift in energy. You might notice when other women are mentioned, or if another woman joins the conversation, she suddenly gets quieter, more observant. She might even create a little bit of physical space. What's happening is that her internal fantasy of you is colliding with the messiness of the real world. She's not trying to own you. She's subconsciously trying to protect the private, uninterrupted idea of you that she's built in her mind. Okay, so we've looked at the physical signs, the conversational clues, and those deep psychological markers. Now what? How do we tie all this together? This last part is about what it all really means and what your role is in helping turn this internal fantasy into a real connection. If you only take one single thing away today, please let it be this: restraint does not equal rejection. We're so conditioned to think that if someone's quiet or holds back, they're just not interested. But in this case, it is very often the exact opposite. Her restraint is a sign of how much is going on inside. The quieter she seems on the outside, the louder and more vivid the conversation about you is on the inside. And this leads us to maybe the most important truth of all. When a woman is showing these signs, the question in her mind is not, "Do I want him?" She is already past that point. The question she is subconsciously asking herself over and over is it safe to want him? And that one idea, that changes everything. It's not about being more charming or funny anymore. It's about being more consistent, more reliable, more safe. So what builds that feeling of safety for her? Well, it really comes down to these four things. First, your consistency, showing up as the same person day after day, so she knows who she's dealing with. Second, your emotional control, not being reactive or volatile, showing her that her feelings will be met with calm, not chaos. Third, your patience. This is huge. Not rushing things, not pushing for an answer. And finally, your warmth, but without pressure. Just being kind and open and a good person to be around without making her feel like you expect anything in return. These are the things that make you a safe harbor for her thoughts. So in the end, seeing all these signs isn't about figuring out how to win some kind of game. It's about recognizing that a private emotional space has been created for you inside someone else's mind. And that's a pretty big deal. So the real question isn't, what's my next move? It's, are you ready to step into that space with the awareness, the patience, and the character that it deserves?